The Birth of a Genius Ulm, Germany, March 14, 1879. In a modest apartment above a bustling street, a child is born who will one day unravel the fabric of space and time itself. His name is Albert Einstein. But nothing about his arrival suggests greatness. His head is unusually large, misshapen. His grandmother whispers her concerns. His mother, Pauline, holds him close, determined to see only promise. The Einstein family is Jewish, middle-class and unremarkable. Hermann, Albert's father, runs a small electrical engineering business with his brother Jakob. Young Albert doesn't speak. 1 year passes, then 2. His parents grow anxious. Is something wrong with their son? When he finally speaks, around age 4, he does so in complete sentences. He has been observing, thinking, absorbing everything. You are watching iconic figures. Stay with us until the end to discover how this story shaped history. The family moves to Munich when Albert is just an infant. Here, in Bavaria's cultural heart, his consciousness awakens. At age 5, his father shows him a pocket compass. Albert stares at the trembling needle, mesmerized. Something invisible is controlling it, forces he cannot see. This moment plants a seed that will grow into a lifelong obsession with the hidden mechanisms of nature. His sister Maya is born when he's 2. She becomes his closest companion, his confidant throughout life. The Einstein household is filled with debate, music, and intellectual curiosity. Pauline plays piano beautifully. She insists Albert learn the violin. At first, he hates it. The mechanical practice feels like torture to his restless mind. But then he discovers Mozart. The mathematical elegance of the compositions speaks to something deep within him. Music becomes his lifelong refuge. School, however, is a nightmare. The German education system is rigid, authoritarian, militaristic. Teachers demand rote memorization and unquestioning obedience. Albert's mind works differently. He asks why, always why. His teachers see rebellion. They see disrespect. One tells him he will never amount to anything. At the Luitpold Gymnasium, he feels imprisoned. The atmosphere suffocates his natural curiosity, but at home, Uncle Jacob introduces him to algebra. It's presented as a puzzle, a game. Albert's eyes light up. Jakob tells him about the Pythagorean theorem. Albert, just 12 years old, spends weeks developing his own proof. A family friend, Max Talmud, brings him books on science and philosophy. Immanuel Kant, Euclid's geometry. Young Albert devours them. While other boys play soldiers, he constructs elaborate card houses, some reaching 14 stories high. His patience is extraordinary. His focus, absolute. These qualities will define his scientific method. The family business begins to struggle. Electrical engineering is competitive. Larger firms dominate the market. In 1894, when Albert is 15, disaster strikes. The business fails completely. Hermann and Jakob decide to move the family to Italy, to Pavia near Milan, seeking new opportunities. But Albert is left behind in Munich to finish his education. He boards with distant relatives, alone and miserable. The separation is unbearable. The school is oppressive. His isolation deepens into depression. 6 months later, he makes a bold decision. Without permission, without warning, he leaves. He obtains a medical certificate claiming nervous exhaustion and travels to Italy to rejoin his family. His father is furious. Albert has thrown away his academic future, abandoned his diploma. But Albert has a plan. He will study independently and apply directly to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. Switzerland represents freedom, a republic, not an empire. Liberal values, intellectual openness. He takes the entrance examination at age 16, a year younger than required. His mathematics and physics scores are exceptional, but he fails the language, botany, and zoology sections. Rejection, his first major setback. But the director recognizes his mathematical genius and suggests he finish secondary school first. Albert enrolls in the cantonal school in Aarau, a small Swiss town. The contrast with Munich is stunning. Here teachers encourage independent thinking. Creativity is valued. Albert flourishes. He lives with the family of Jost Winterler, one of his teachers. The household is warm, intellectual, politically progressive. For the first time in years, Albert feels at home. He falls in love with Marie Winterler, the teacher's daughter. His first romance is innocent, tender, but his ambitions are larger than settling down at 17. In 1896, he passes his school exams brilliantly and is admitted to the Zurich Polytechnic to train as a teacher of physics and mathematics. He also renounces his German citizenship to avoid military service, becoming stateless. He will remain so for 5 years. At the Polytechnic, he meets Mileva Maric, the only woman in his physics program. She is Serbian, brilliant, serious. Mileva faces constant discrimination. Women in science are rarities, often ridiculed, but her mathematical abilities are formidable. Albert is drawn to her intellect. They become study partners, then something more. His professor, Heinrich Weber, is initially impressed by Albert, but tensions grow. Albert skips lectures, finds them boring. He studies Maxwell's electromagnetic theory and other cutting-edge work on his own. Weber grows irritated by Albert's independence, his lack of respect for authority. Albert graduates in 1900 but without distinction. His rebellious attitude has cost him. He applies for assistant positions at universities across Europe. Every application is rejected. His professors won't recommend him. He's seen as difficult, arrogant, unreliable. These are devastating years. He takes temporary teaching jobs. He tutors privately. He struggles financially. Mileva becomes pregnant. They're not married. In 1902, she returns to Serbia and gives birth to a daughter, Liesel. What happens to this child remains one of history's mysteries. She either dies in infancy or is given up for adoption. Albert never sees his daughter. He rarely mentions her. This shadow will haunt biographical scholarship for a century. His father dies in October 1902, still believing Albert has wasted his potential. Hermann's last words to his son are of disappointment, not pride. Albert carries this wound for life. But just before his father's death, Albert receives news that changes everything. Through a friend's recommendation, he's offered a position at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. It's not an academic job, it's not prestigious, but it provides steady income and, crucially, time to think. In January 1903, he marries Mileva. Their apartment in Bern becomes a laboratory for revolutionary ideas. He works 6 days a week evaluating patent applications, but his mind is elsewhere, in the cosmos. Evenings and Sundays, he fills notebooks with calculations, thought experiments, paradoxes. He gathers a small circle of friends, Konrad Habicht, Maurice Solovine. They call themselves the Olympia Academy. They meet to discuss philosophy, physics, literature. They debate Hume, Spinoza, Poincaré. In 1904, Mileva gives birth to their son Hans Albert. Fatherhood brings joy, but also financial pressure. The pressure focuses his mind. The questions that have haunted him since childhood demand answers. What is light? What is time? What is the relationship between energy and matter? Late at night, while his wife and infant son sleep, Albert Einstein sits at his kitchen table. He's 26 years old, unknown, working a mundane job. But he's about to change the world forever. The discoveries that changed the world. Bern, Switzerland. Spring 1905. A young patent clerk walks to his office through streets still cool with morning shadow. To passers-by, Albert Einstein is nobody. But inside his mind, a revolution is unfolding. This year will become known as his annus mirabilis, his miracle year. In March, he submits a paper explaining the photoelectric effect, proposing that light behaves as particles, not just waves. This idea is radical, heretical even. It challenges fundamental assumptions and will eventually earn him the Nobel Prize. In April, he completes his doctoral dissertation on molecular dimensions. It's practical, focused on solutions and Brownian motion. In May, another paper explains the random movement of particles suspended in fluid, providing powerful evidence for atoms. Atoms at this time are still controversial. Many scientists doubt their existence. Einstein's work helps settle the debate. But these papers, revolutionary as they are, pale beside what comes next. In June, he submits a paper titled On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies. It contains no citations, no references to other work, just pure thought, crystallized into mathematics. This is the special theory of relativity. It overturns 3 centuries of Newtonian physics. Einstein begins with a simple question. What would you see if you could ride alongside a beam of light? Maxwell's equations suggest light always travels at the same speed, regardless of the observer's motion. But this contradicts common sense and Newtonian mechanics. Something has to give. Einstein realizes that time and space aren't absolute. They're relative, flexible, intertwined. Time moves slower for objects traveling at high speeds. Distances contract. Simultaneity is an illusion. 2 events that appear simultaneous to one observer may occur at different times for another. The implications are staggering, almost mystical, yet the mathematics are elegant, undeniable. In September, he publishes a follow-up paper, a brief addendum to his relativity work. It contains the most famous equation in science, E equals mc². Energy and mass are interchangeable. Matter is frozen energy. A tiny amount of mass contains enormous energy. These 5 papers, all published within months, represent one of the most explosive outbursts of genius in human history. Yet the scientific community barely notices. Einstein is unknown, the journals are obscure. But slowly, word spreads. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, reads the relativity paper with astonishment. He begins lecturing on Einstein's work in Berlin. Other physicists take notice. Einstein continues working at the patent office. He applies for promotions, hoping for better pay. Universities still won't hire him. His publications are too strange, too radical. But in 1908, he's finally offered a junior teaching position at the University of Bern. He teaches in the evenings after his patent office work. His lectures are poorly attended, sometimes by only 3 students. In 1909, the University of Zurich offers him an associate professorship. He accepts, leaving the patent office after 7 formative years. His marriage to Mileva is deteriorating. The intellectual partnership that once united them has faded. She's isolated, caring for their children, while Albert's career accelerates. Resentment grows. In 1911, Einstein is invited to the Solvay Conference in Brussels, the first international gathering of the world's leading physicists. He meets Marie Curie, Henri Poincaré, Ernest Rutherford. He's now part of the scientific elite. But Einstein is unsatisfied. Special relativity applies only to objects moving at constant speeds. What about acceleration? What about gravity? These questions consume him. He develops a thought experiment. Imagine standing in an elevator in space, accelerating upward. You'd feel pressed to the floor, exactly as if gravity were pulling you down. Are acceleration and gravity distinguishable? Einstein concludes they're equivalent. The same phenomenon. This principle of equivalence becomes the foundation for general relativity, but translating intuition into mathematics proves agonizing. He struggles for years. He moves to Prague, then returns to Zurich, seeking environments conducive to concentration. In 1914, he accepts a prestigious position in Berlin at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. It's a dream job, no teaching duties, just research. But the timing is catastrophic. Mileva refuses to move to Berlin permanently. Their marriage collapses. She returns to Zurich with their sons. Einstein is alone in Berlin when World War I erupts in August 1914. He's horrified by the nationalism, the militarism, the enthusiasm for slaughter. 93 German intellectuals sign a manifesto supporting the war. Einstein refuses, signing a counter-manifesto for peace. His pacifism makes him unpopular, even suspect. But he continues working. The war rages, millions die, empires crumble. Einstein calculates, writes, revises. By November 1915, he completes the field equations of General Relativity. Gravity isn't a force pulling objects together. It's the curvature of space-time itself. Massive objects bend space-time, and other objects follow the curves, like marbles rolling on a stretched rubber sheet. The mathematics are breathtakingly beautiful. They predict Mercury's orbit with perfect accuracy. They predict that light itself will bend when passing near massive objects like the sun. But Europe is at war. No one can test the theory. Einstein must wait. His health deteriorates from stress and poor nutrition. He suffers a severe breakdown, liver problems, stomach ulcers. His cousin Elsa nurses him back to health. She's practical, caring, the opposite of Mileva. Their relationship deepens. Einstein divorces Mileva in 1919, promising her the money from his future Nobel Prize. He marries Elsa soon after. It's a marriage of convenience more than passion. In May 1919, British astronomer Arthur Eddington leads an expedition to observe a total solar eclipse from the island of Principe off Africa. His mission: photograph stars near the sun and measure whether their light bends, as Einstein predicts. Months pass. The world waits. Then in November the announcement comes. Einstein is right. Light bends around the sun. General Relativity is confirmed. The Times of London runs the headline, "Revolution in Science, New Theory of the Universe, Newtonian Ideas Overthrown." Overnight, Einstein becomes the most famous scientist on Earth. His face appears on magazine covers. He's mobbed by crowds. Reporters follow him everywhere. He travels to America, Japan, Palestine, South America. Massive crowds greet him at every stop. He's more than a scientist. He becomes a symbol of genius, of peace, of the power of human thought. In 1921, he finally receives the Nobel Prize, though ironically not for relativity, but for his work on the photoelectric effect. The prize money goes to Mileva and his sons, as promised. His relationship with them remains strained. Throughout the 20s, he continues working, searching for a unified field theory that would unite gravity and electromagnetism. He debates Niels Bohr about quantum mechanics. Einstein can't accept its probabilistic nature. God does not play dice with the universe, he famously declares. But quantum mechanics succeeds brilliantly. Einstein finds himself increasingly isolated from mainstream physics. Still, his fame grows. He's invited to lecture worldwide. His opinions on politics, Zionism, and pacifism are widely sought. He supports the creation of a Jewish homeland, but warns against nationalism and militarism. He advocates for civil rights, world government, nuclear disarmament. But dark clouds are gathering over Europe. In Germany, Adolf Hitler is rising to power. Einstein, a Jew, a pacifist, an internationalist, represents everything the Nazis hate. His books are burned, his property is confiscated, bounties are placed on his head. In December 1932, Einstein leaves Germany for a lecture tour. He will never return. Battles and Challenges, January 30th, 1933. Adolf Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. In America, Albert Einstein watches from a distance, horrified. He's in California when the news arrives. Within days, he announces he will not return to Germany. The Nazis ransack his summer home. They seize his bank accounts. His name appears on a list of enemies of the state. A magazine offers a reward for information leading to his capture. His life is valued at 50,000 marks. Einstein is 54 years old, at the height of his fame, and now a refugee. He renounces his German citizenship for the second time in his life. The Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, offers him a permanent position. Princeton becomes his final home, a quiet college town far from the chaos engulfing Europe. He buys a modest house at 112 Mercer Street. It becomes one of the most famous addresses in science. His routine is simple. Walk to his office, work on equations, walk home. He wears the same casual clothes daily. Sweatshirts, no socks, unruly hair. He cultivates the image of the absent-minded genius, partly as camouflage. But beneath the eccentric facade, Einstein is deeply engaged with the world's darkest currents. Letters arrive from Europe. Colleagues fleeing persecution, begging for affidavits, for help emigrating. He writes hundreds of letters on behalf of refugees. He uses his fame to open doors, to save lives. His sister Maya escapes Italy and comes to live with him. She's his closest companion once again. But his sons struggle. Hans Albert becomes an engineer in America, their relationship distant but respectful. Eduard, his younger son, develops schizophrenia. He's institutionalized in Switzerland, never recovering. Einstein sends money, writes letters, but never visits. This failure haunts him, a wound he cannot heal. His marriage to Elsa is cordial but loveless. She manages his household, shields him from distractions. When she dies in 1936, Einstein is sad, but also relieved. He values his solitude more than companionship. In these years, his scientific isolation deepens. Quantum mechanics dominates physics. Einstein continues his quest for a unified field theory, but progress eludes him. Younger physicists view his work as outdated, a relic of classical thinking. He writes papers that are politely received but rarely influential. The revolution has moved on without him. In 1939, everything changes. Scientists discover nuclear fission. Splitting atoms releases enormous energy. Einstein's equation, E equals mc², suddenly has terrifying practical implications. Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard visits Einstein in August. He brings alarming news. Germany might be developing an atomic bomb. The consequences would be catastrophic. Szilard drafts a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt, warning of the danger. Einstein signs it. His signature carries weight. The letter reaches Roosevelt. The Manhattan Project is born. Thousands of scientists and engineers labor in secret to build the bomb before Germany does. Einstein plays no direct role. His pacifism is well known. Security officials don't trust him. He spends the war years at Princeton continuing his theoretical work, largely unaware of the details. In April 1945, Roosevelt dies. Einstein is saddened. He admired the president. In May, Germany surrenders. The Nazi threat is over. Einstein breathes easier, but the bomb is nearly complete. The target shifts to Japan. On August 6, 1945, an atomic bomb destroys Hiroshima. 70,000 people die instantly. 3 days later, Nagasaki is bombed. Japan surrenders. The war ends. Einstein is horrified. He famously says, "Had I known, I would have become a watchmaker." His equation, his beautiful abstract equation, has been weaponized. The guilt weighs on him. Though he didn't build the bomb, his work enabled it. He feels responsible. He becomes a passionate advocate for nuclear disarmament, for world government, for preventing future wars. He joins the Emergency Committee of Atomic Scientists, campaigning for international control of nuclear weapons. But the Cold War begins. America and the Soviet Union enter an arms race. Einstein's pacifism and socialism make him suspect. The FBI opens a file on him, eventually stretching to nearly 1,500 pages. J. Edgar Hoover considers him a security risk. Agents monitor his phone, his mail, his visitors. Einstein is aware of the surveillance. He jokes about it but doesn't change his behavior. He speaks out for civil rights, supporting Black Americans fighting segregation and discrimination. He befriends Paul Robeson, the singer and activist. He calls racism America's worst disease. He declines offers to testify against suspected communists. He defends academic freedom and free speech. His political activism makes him controversial. Some view him as a traitor, others as a moral conscience. In physics, he's increasingly marginalized. His search for a unified theory produces no breakthroughs. Colleagues admire his past achievements, but consider his current work misguided. He refuses to accept quantum mechanics. He engages in famous debates with Niels Bohr, never conceding. He proposes thought experiments, paradoxes designed to show quantum theory's incompleteness. The most famous, the EPR paradox, suggests quantum mechanics allows spooky action at a distance. Bohr counters each argument. The physics community sides with Bohr. Einstein remains defiant. Decades later, experiments will show Einstein's intuitions about quantum entanglement were actually correct, though not in the way he intended. In 1948, he's diagnosed with an abdominal aortic aneurysm. Surgery is risky. He declines. He knows the aneurysm could rupture at any time. Death might come suddenly. He accepts this calmly, even with relief. He's tired, ready to rest. His sister Maya suffers a stroke and becomes bedridden. He reads to her every evening until her death in 1951. He's surrounded by colleagues, assistants, students at the institute. But emotionally, he's alone. In 1952, he's offered the presidency of Israel after Chaim Weizmann's death. He's deeply honored, but declines. I lack the natural aptitude and the experience to deal properly with people. He continues working until the very end. His desk is covered with calculations, drafts, revisions. The unified theory remains elusive, a dream unfulfilled. But he doesn't stop. Even knowing he might be wrong, he pursues truth with the same passion as when he was 26. In April 1955, his aneurysm ruptures. He's hospitalized. Doctors urge surgery. Einstein refuses. I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. On April 17th, he asks for his latest calculations. He works through the night. Early on April 18th, 1955, at 1:15 a.m., Albert Einstein takes a final breath. The night nurse doesn't speak German. His last words, spoken in his native tongue, are lost forever. His body is cremated later that day. His ashes are scattered in an undisclosed location. He wanted no grave, no shrine, no pilgrimage site, just his work, his ideas, his legacy. The last years, and the legacy. April 18th, 1955. The news flashes around the world. Albert Einstein is dead. Newspapers run obituaries spanning entire pages. Radio broadcasts are interrupted. World leaders issue statements. But even in death, Einstein is controversial. Before his cremation, something extraordinary happens. Dr. Thomas Harvey, the pathologist performing the autopsy, removes Einstein's brain without permission. He claims it's for science, to understand the physical basis of genius. The family is furious. Eventually, Hans Albert reluctantly agrees, hoping some good might come. Harvey keeps the brain for decades, slicing it into sections, distributing pieces to researchers. Studies find some unusual features, more glial cells, unusual folding patterns in certain regions. But no definitive answer emerges. Genius, it seems, can't be located in tissue and neurons. Einstein himself would have found the whole affair absurd, perhaps amusing. In Princeton, his office at the Institute remains untouched for days, exactly as he left it. Blackboards covered with equations, papers stacked on every surface, unfinished calculations on his desk. His quest for a unified theory remained incomplete. To this day, it remains one of physics' grand challenges. But his completed work transformed everything. Special and general relativity remain foundational. Every GPS satellite must account for relativistic effects, or it would give incorrect positions. Einstein's predictions about gravitational waves were confirmed in 2015, a century after he made them. When two black holes collided over 1 billion light-years away, detectors on Earth registered ripples in space-time. His work on the photoelectric effect launched quantum physics, even though he never fully accepted where it led. His equation, E equals mc², explained the power of the stars and enabled nuclear energy. For better and worse, the 20th century was shaped by his ideas. But Einstein's legacy extends beyond equations. He became a symbol, an archetype, the image of the wild-haired genius, brilliant but approachable, passionate but humble. He showed that great intellectual achievement doesn't require arrogance or elitism. He remained curious, playful, willing to question everything, including his own assumptions. He never wore socks because he found them annoying. He played violin to relax. He sailed but never learned to swim. These quirks made him human, relatable, despite his towering intellect. His political and social activism also matters. He used his fame to advocate for causes he believed in. He fought racism when it was dangerous to do so. He opposed militarism and nationalism. He supported Zionism but warned against chauvinism. He advocated for peace when war seemed inevitable. His moral courage matched his intellectual courage. He refused to be silent. In his final years, he reflected on his life in letters and conversations. He expressed regret about his failed marriages, his distant relationships with his sons. He wondered if his sacrifices for science had been worth the personal costs. He remained uncertain about God, though he spoke of Spinoza's God, the harmony and order underlying nature. I want to know how God created this world. I am not interested in this or that phenomenon. I want to know his thoughts. The rest are details. He believed in determinism, in a universe governed by laws, even as quantum mechanics suggested otherwise. He died believing the universe was comprehensible, that human reason could grasp its deepest secrets. Whether he was right or wrong, that faith drove his life's work. After his death, his writings were collected, his correspondence published. The Einstein Papers project continues to this day, compiling and annotating every document. Scholars study not just his science, but his philosophy, his politics, his humanity. His face remains instantly recognizable worldwide, a century after his miracle year. The wild hair, the penetrating eyes, the mischievous smile, it's become an icon. Time magazine named him Person of the Century in 1999, recognizing his profound impact. His name is synonymous with genius. We call brilliant ideas Einsteinian, but he deflected praise. He insisted his achievements came from stubborn curiosity, not superhuman intelligence. I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. He encouraged questioning, imagination, wonder, traits he believed anyone could cultivate. His advice to students: never lose a holy curiosity. In popular culture, he appears in countless films, books, plays. He's been quoted, misquoted, and mythologized. Some quotes attributed to him are fabricated, but people repeat them because they sound like something he'd say. His image sells products, adorns posters, appears in classrooms. He's become part of our collective imagination. But beyond the mythology, there was a real person, brilliant, flawed, complex, a man who struggled with personal relationships but connected with millions through his ideas. A refugee who found safety but never forgot those who didn't. A scientist who unleashed tremendous power and spent his final years warning against its misuse. He died knowing some of his greatest questions remained unanswered. The unified theory eluded him. The quantum puzzle remained unsolved by his standards, but he also knew that science is a collaborative, cumulative endeavor spanning generations. His work provided tools and insights for those who came after. Today's physicists still grapple with Einstein's paradoxes, still test his predictions. The search for quantum gravity, for a theory of everything, continues his quest. In a sense, he's still working, still asking questions through those he inspired. His house on Mercer Street stands today, privately owned but historically protected. The streets of Princeton, where he walked, are traveled by new generations of thinkers. The Institute for Advanced Study continues as a sanctuary for theoretical research. And everywhere, people look at the stars and wonder about space, time, and the nature of reality. Many trace that wonder back to a rebellious patent clerk who dared to ask, "What if everything we believe about time is wrong?" Einstein's life proves that one person, thinking deeply, questioning boldly, can change how humanity sees the universe. He turned abstract mathematics into poetry, revealing hidden beauty in the fabric of existence. He showed that imagination is more important than knowledge, that creativity drives discovery. He lived through war, persecution, and exile, yet never lost faith in reason and human progress. His flaws, his failed marriages, his complicated relationship with his children, remind us that genius doesn't equal perfection. Greatness and weakness coexist. Brilliance and blindness share the same mind. But his commitment to truth, justice, and understanding offers a model of intellectual and moral integrity. In an age of division, he advocated for unity. In times of war, he spoke for peace. When nationalism surged, he defended internationalism. When prejudice flourished, he championed equality. His voice remains relevant because the challenges he addressed persist. Nuclear weapons still threaten humanity. Nationalism still fuels conflict. Racism still scars societies. His warnings, his hopes, his vision of a better world still resonate. On his deathbed, he worked on equations until he couldn't hold a pencil. That final image captures his essence, restless, driven, endlessly curious until the very end. Albert Einstein's journey from the awkward, silent child in Ulm to the world's most famous scientist is a story of persistence, of refusing to accept conventional wisdom, of trusting intuition even when it contradicts common sense, of enduring rejection, failure, and exile without abandoning the pursuit of truth. His discoveries reshaped our understanding of reality. His activism challenged us to build a better world. His humanity, his music, his humor, his kindness reminds us that great minds belong to real people. More than half a century after his death, his presence is still felt. In every physics classroom, every observatory, every laboratory pushing the boundaries of knowledge. In the GPS satellites orbiting overhead, in the detectors measuring gravitational waves, in the debates about nuclear weapons, in the fight for civil rights, in the quest for peace, Einstein showed us that the universe is stranger, more beautiful, and more interconnected than we imagined. He taught us that space and time are flexible, that energy and matter are one, that gravity is geometry. He proved that nothing is absolute except the speed of light, and even time bows to velocity. But perhaps his greatest gift was simpler, the example of a life devoted to wonder. A life that asked questions without fear, that challenged authority with humility, that pursued truth with passion. This was another episode of Iconic Figures. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful documentaries about the minds and leaders who changed the world.